Life gets distracting. Every day we're faced with new challenges, big and small, but more and more often, we forget to cherish those around us. Let this story be a reminder that at any moment, someone you love can be taken from you in an instant, never to return. In this video, we're going to cover the disappearance of a 10-month-old little girl. The ending may surprise you. Welcome to FearBank. Deborah Bradley and Jeremy Irwin were a couple living in Kansas, Missouri. They were raising two boys, ages 5 and 8. The boys were from past relationships, but were being raised together by their parents. Though Deborah and Jeremy were not married, they were in a committed relationship for several years at this point. On November 11th, 2010, Deborah Bradley gave birth to Lisa Irwin. Lisa had very light blonde hair and bright blue eyes, and she was described as a very easygoing and happy little girl. On October 3rd, 2011, Jeremy had spent the majority of the day working. He was an electrician, and anyone who has worked a job like this knows that it comes with some odd hours. Some days are long, some days are short, and some are scattered with time in between jobs. However, at 2:30 that day, he arrived home from work. A few hours later, around 4:30 p.m., Deborah decided to go to a local grocery store with her brother Philip. Jeremy stayed home with the children while they were out. Deborah and Philip picked up a few groceries, diapers, formula, and a box of wine. Around a half hour later, they would return home, and Philip headed home from there. Jeremy, however, had to leave for another job that evening at Starbucks, and was unsure of when he would be back home. Deborah decided it might be nice to have some company that evening while her husband was at work. She invited her next-door neighbor and her 4-year-old daughter over to play with the kids, and decided to break out the wine she had purchased from her run to the store earlier that evening. Deborah put Lisa to bed in her crib around 6:30 p.m., and the two women sat outside on the front step chatting and drinking wine until around 10:30 p.m. That's when the neighbor and her daughter decided it was time to head home. By this time, Deborah was pretty intoxicated, and later on would not remember the exact number of glasses she had consumed that night. She claimed to have had between 5 to 10 glasses. Once the neighbor left, Deborah crawled into her bed with the younger of the two boys and fell asleep. Around 3:45 a.m., Jeremy finally arrived home from work. His shift had gone a lot longer than he anticipated, as is normal with those types of jobs. Nonetheless, he was ready to get home and get some sleep, but he noticed things seemed a bit unusual when he arrived home. An example of this was the front door. It was unlocked. This struck Jeremy as odd because Deborah typically made sure to lock up if she was home alone with the kids. In addition to the door being unlocked, all of the lights were still on in the house. Although this seemed strange, Jeremy just assumed Deborah must have forgotten to turn everything off before she went to sleep. As he walked around the home, turning the lights off, he noticed that the window was open in the computer room. When he tried to shut it, it wouldn't close. With a closer look, Jeremy noticed that the latching system on the window seemed to have broken. Jeremy peeked into the boys' room and saw the older child asleep on the top bunk, and noticed that the younger of the two boys was asleep in the master bedroom with Deborah. Finally, Jeremy peeked into Lisa's room to make sure that she was alright, but instead, he found an empty crib. Lisa was only 10 months old and would have a hard time climbing out of her crib and getting around the house by herself. Jeremy knew this and panicked, so he ran to wake up Deborah and let her know Lisa was missing from her crib. The two frantically searched the house, but could not find a sign of Lisa anywhere. When their search attempts failed, their first instinct was to call 911. But there was just one problem. The 3 cell phones that they had in their house were gone. Luckily, this was before house phones became mostly obsolete, and they used theirs to call the police. Police showed up at the house to take down and report all of the details they could so they could get an Amber Alert out as quickly as possible. The police searched the home, and with Jeremy and Deborah's cooperation, got as much information as they could. There were no questions in anyone's mind that this was in fact a kidnapping. This is where things take a turn though. The following day, the Amber Alert was turned off. The police were now looking at the parents. Apparently, there were several inconsistencies in their stories. Deborah was brought in to take a polygraph test. According to Deborah, Police told her that she had failed the polygraph test, but that they had only said that to try to get her to give a false confession. Around this time, police said that the couple were no longer cooperating with investigation. Word spread quickly, and there were some very interesting tips that came into the station regarding Lisa's disappearance. One witness reported seeing a man in the area walking with a baby that looked very underdressed. This happened around 4 a.m. that morning. This was right around the time that Jeremy would have been arriving home from work. The man was spotted at an intersection about 3 miles from the Irwin home. Reportedly, the man was wearing a t-shirt, and the baby didn't have a coat or anything on. Another couple that lived in the same neighborhood saw this same man walking down the road carrying a baby. They reported it right away. The couple said that it looked like the baby had only a diaper on. According to Deborah, Lisa was wearing purple shorts and a purple t-shirt when she was put in her crib that night. It would be discovered that the morning Lisa disappeared, there was a dumpster fire near the family home around 2:30 a.m. Reportedly, the dumpster contained burnt clothing. Now for the inconsistencies in the story. Deborah initially told the police that she had checked on Lisa around 10:30 p.m. that night before going to bed herself. This would turn out to be a lie. The last time she had physically seen Lisa was around 6:30 p.m. when she put her in the crib. This would leave a very large gap where anything could have happened. And with Deborah so intoxicated, it's not a huge stretch of the imagination to think that she may have blacked out during this time period. Whether someone had broken in and gone unnoticed because of this, we don't know. Jeremy and Deborah stayed consistent. They would continue to speak to media regarding Lisa's disappearance and tried different methods of reaching her. They even submitted their DNA to Ancestry and other companies alike in hopes that someday Lisa might try one and they could find her with her DNA. To this day, Lisa is still missing. Thank you for making it this far into the video, and if you like these types of videos, along with any other true yet horrifying topics, be sure to follow me. This is FearBank, and we'll see you next time.